My name is Don Morgan. I'm a licensed amateur radio operator. AB3BO is the amateur radio station that I operate at. We did a previous video on the Kenwood TS480 HX. The TS480 HX is an HF radio. We're going to expand here a bit on the RS232 DB9 to USB interface that was presented in that earlier video. The way the connection is set up in the AB3BO Amateur Radio Station, there's the COM port to the radio, and then there's a female-to-female DB9 cable that goes from the COM port over to the GigaWare adapter. On the opposite side of the GigaWare adapter is a USB plug, and that USB plug plugs into the HP notebook computer. Should be remembered that this COM port to USB port on the computer, the whole idea of this interface is to give the computer the capability of controlling the radio. So if there's a program loaded on the computer like Ham Radio Deluxe or JT65HF or even the ARCP480 program, with those programs on the computer can send signals off to the radio through this interface and tell the radio when to turn on, when to turn off, what frequency to set the radio to, what mode to operate the radio in, or even when to transmit and receive. This interface gives those programs the ability to control the radio. One of the nice things I've found with the GigaWare interface is that it's been able to work with multiple radios and with multiple computers. I also use in the shack a Kenwood TS2000. Now in the Kenwood TS2000 situation, the communications port out of the back of the radio is labeled ACC2 port. And it's also a DIN connection. It's a 13-pin DIN connection. So in that setup, where I wanted to connect that port to the radio, to the computer, I've had to have a separate interface. So in this setup, there's a separate interface that goes from the ACC2 port to the DB9 connection of the GigaWare interface, and then off to the USB connection on the computer. But the nice thing about the GigaWare adapter is it's worked in multiple radio situations. Also, on the USB side, the GigaWare adapter has worked with multiple computers. I've used Dell desktop and notebooks. I've used HP desktop and notebooks. I've also taken homebrew computers where I've taken a box and assembled the parts from various vendors. So I've taken a motherboard, a CPU, a disk drive, and a power supply and so forth, assembled those into a box, and that box has been able to work properly with the GigaWare adapter. They make cheaper DB9 RS232 to USB adapters. You can even get them for about $5 out there if you look around. The problem I found is that those adapters don't always work in the radio to computer situation. The important thing to keep in mind here is that there's certain voltage levels, swing levels, or switching levels that the USB port to the COM port need to operate at. And if for some reason the interface weights down the USB port or the COM port on the radio, if there's some extra load that those adapters place on those connections, then there's a failure of the USB port and the COM port to switch properly and communicate properly, and for the computer program to operate the radio. So I like the GigaWare interface. It seems to do a reliable job in multiple situations, and that's why I have the GigaWare adapter in my shack. If you have any further questions, check us out at King's Rule Production, Words and Images by Don. This website and this web page that's indicated on the screen here has further information on this RS232 DB9 to USB connection. You can leave comments below or check out the website and leave comments over there.